Hi, everybody. I am Kate Pollan, a coach, a writer, and a deeply curious human, and this is Hello Void. This series is a collection of unscripted conversations at the intersection of psyche and uncertainty in 2025. I'm sitting down with entrepreneurs, coaches, creatives, healers, thinkers, feelers, really anybody who wants to explore what it actually means to be human with me right now, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. All of this at a time when the world just feels increasingly chaotic, contradictory, and wired for overwhelm. So I'm talking to people about how we are making sense of our inner lives and how we are learning to live alongside emotional pain and uncertainty, as well as what the people I'm speaking with have noticed in those that they work with too. And the reasoning for all of this is because being human is not a solo experience. It's relational. It's bittersweet, right? It's joy and grief, expansion and fear, doubt and wonder. And all of this is sitting side by side. So today I'm talking with Danielle McMahon, and she is a mindset coach at Coast Based Coaching. Welcome, Danielle. To start off, you want to tell us about you and why you said yes to having this conversation with me today?
Yes, hi, Kate. It's so lovely to connect. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Danielle, as you mentioned, and I am a mindset coach from Coast Based Coaching. And I work with individuals, coaches, and online service providers to help them break through subconscious barriers and blocks so that they can build thriving businesses and lives without the burnout. So that's what I do in a nutshell. And I said yes to our conversation today because it is an area that I'm super, super passionate about. The emotional patterns of growth. I think it's really interesting what you mentioned there around the duality of life, of having pain and happiness and growth and step forwards and step back. So it's really, really interesting. Just about being human. It's a very unique and interesting experience. And I think there is a lot of power in making space for this type of conversation. So yeah, I'm really excited.
Yeah, I agree. I part of the reason I started this series is really to bring light to a lot of the places that we try to keep in the dark as humans.
Totally. Totally.
So I'd love to know, how has your understanding of what it means to be human changed in the past few years, emotionally, spiritually, whatever?
Yeah, so I guess I've always had, growing up, my understanding of being human, and I suppose through going through school and college and everything, has been to get things done, to work at the next thing, to constantly, I would be a self-proclaimed perfectionist, and I would constantly be kind of striving for the next thing, working, always wanting to do my best. Um, and I guess as part of that, fixing problems, solving pain, and wanting to know the answers and the whys, and really wanting to know why things happen. Why is it that way? Why is it this way? But in the last couple of years, my understanding and my belief around it has completely changed. And spiritually, I have really, really softened. And I now believe that it's all to do with our nervous system and our body and embodiment of our day to day. Because if we can't control things no matter how much we think we can. And I've learned that actually the perfectionism, the tendency to strive for the next thing is actually just a way of not dealing with whatever pain or suffering or uncertainty you're actually avoiding. So by coming back to the nervous system piece and actually understanding that it's more than just a biological process, that it actually does serve as a function, it's our internal compass. Once we actually stop and allow and listen and stop overriding it, that's when we come home to ourselves. It's when the magic happens. And it's actually when we get a lot of messages and a lot of
Mhm.
whispers and a lot of direction without even looking very far. It's all about having that gentleness to really allow ourselves to have the understanding to just examine ourselves a little bit in that way.
Absolutely. And I find that for me, focusing more on the nervous system in a way helps me kind of get out of my head and more into my body, into the moment, into the experience.
Absolutely, totally.
And I am also, I am what I call a recovering perfectionist, in
Yes.
that in the past I have very much been, if I can't do this perfectly, what is the point of me even trying? And that's something that I have majorly shifted for myself as I'm doing things now that like honestly kind of amaze me, because I'm like, if I would have tried these things a couple of years ago, I would have been so anxious about getting things exactly perfect, getting things exactly the way that I wanted them to be, trying to control every single outcome. I'd be driving myself crazy and putting my nervous system through a whole bunch of stress.
100%. And it is that piece, it's that all or nothing mindset. I'm the exact same. Like I used to be absolutely, if I can't do it 150%, there's no point doing it. And it's even in my line of work, like I try and talk to clients around, it's not about needing to do 100 different things. It's actually, if you can do one or two things, like that 1% shift is absolutely colossal. It's, if you put an airplane 1 degree off course, it's going to land in a totally different country. And it's the exact same with any sort of change or anything like emotional, spiritual, whatever changes we're trying to implement. It's always the smaller habits that make the bigger difference.
Absolutely. And you had talked about control and how we as humans don't have it, which is something that's been coming up big for me.
Yeah.
And I have found by focusing on agency, I actually have more freedom and more quote unquote control. I'm not actually going to say that, but I can influence things to go in the direction that I want them to go, even if I can't control the outcome.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. Absolutely.
Well, okay. So in your work with clients, what
Mm-hmm.
emotional patterns and struggles do you see people wrestling with the most?
Honestly, it's a very good question, and it really mirrors my own story. So before I kind of got into coaching, I burnt out very badly in my corporate job. And in hindsight, I was burnt out for a lot longer until then I realized, and eventually went on leave. And it's funny. On paper, I would have thought I had my dream job. If you could describe my dream life, that was it. And I just thought burnout was something that came with the territory. It's so normalized. But I always say that there's a blessing in the burnout, because if I hadn't experienced it, I would not be where I am today. I wouldn't have retrained. I wouldn't have changed that path by 1 degree. I wouldn't have done anything like that. And what I see in a lot of my clients these days is the high functioning burnout. It's like so many of us, and I think it's a lot to do with the world that we're currently living in and what we've all been through. We're all high achievers. We all want the best. We're all striving for the next best thing. And on paper, if you look or talk to someone, most people appear like they have it all together, like they're fine. But underneath, they are emotionally exhausted. Maybe they're not sleeping. Maybe they are struggling with various different things, and they're on their way to burnout. And the people that are on the way to burnout always look like they have everything together.
Yeah.
That's one thing that's totally valid. And I think, our nervous systems, they need safety. So that's exactly what a lot of my clients I deal with. It's safety. It's actually slowing things down so that you can understand why you're getting a certain message, understand the anxious feeling that's coming in, understand why you might be second guessing something and not pushing things away. So a lot of what I focus on, it comes down to three key pillars. So it's regulation, so regulating our nervous system so that we can actually tell our body that we're safe. And once we tell
Yes.
our body that we're actually safe, we can make better decisions. We feel better. We feel like oh, I can actually do this. I can actually make this choice. I can actually go for the promotion, whatever it is. The second thing is rewiring. So it's rewiring old limiting beliefs that no longer serve us, and really hand in hand with that regulation piece, that when we actually slow our nervous systems down, we're able to tell ourselves the new truth, the new belief that we know we want to feel. And then the third thing is reclaiming. So whether that's reclaiming boundaries, reclaiming a new identity, getting healthy habits into place, reclaiming your power in whatever way that looks like to a particular client. And I think when we actually give ourselves the time to do these three things, like the change is absolutely phenomenal. And at its core, it is giving ourselves the time and space to slow down, to come back to ourselves, to stop burning out, and actually allow ourselves to move forward in a way that feels sustainable.
That's beautiful. And I'm trying to think of which part of that I want to respond to first because there's a lot that my mind is like, oh, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. The one of the things that I am thinking about kind of with what you're saying is when we have like this burnout, and I too burned out on a corporate job, and it is part of what has gotten me here to being a coach today. And I too am look at my past as like, if I didn't have a whole bunch of uncertainty in my life right now, for example, I wouldn't be having these conversations with people and getting to relate to other people and not feel like I'm alone, right? Like I think a lot of times people with burnout, they think that, well, not just people with burnout, people in general, they think they're the only one who's experiencing that because everybody else looks like they have all of their stuff together and they don't have it inside. So they're like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I handle this when it seems like everybody else can? And I think there's a certain kind of level of self-permission that comes from hearing others are going through it too.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the biggest things. It's actually just sitting down just to talk about it, just to talk about being burnt out. And, I always say with burnout, it's not it's a, working life is a journey and burnout is not the destination. Burnout is a destination we do not want to reach. It's a limit, it's not a target. And when we actually reach that stage of burnout, like that is us at our limit. So when I have conversations with people, I always try and say, like, what can you do to actually get regulate yourself so that you're lowering that limit again, and you're not gonna your barrier is coming down a little bit, and you're actually getting away from that limit. Like it's just like in a car when we have speeding and speeding things on motorways and things, like they are a limit, they're not a target. So how can we slow down the car? How can we slow ourselves down to actually access the valuable knowledge that we have? And by having conversations and by having platforms like you do, Kate, it's important that we have these conversations. It's so important. And I think the more we normalize feeling a little bit stressed, feeling a little bit overwhelmed, feeling a little bit burnt out, the better, because it's a universal feeling. It's one of the probably most commonly human feelings we all have.
It's like, yeah, I'm hearing like feeling human.
Yeah,
That is what I hear from
100%.
all
Yeah,
of that.
yeah, totally.
So, how do you personally make space for pain and uncertainty when it shows up?
That's really interesting. And do you know what? I think the answer to that question is actually in the question itself, and it's about making the space. I think everything that we go through today, like we are as a humanity, we are always connecting, we are always on, we are always, you can contact people within an instant on multiple different platforms and mediums. And I think it's very easy to distract yourself from pain, from suffering, from any sort of discomfort. And for me, I think it's actually sometimes scheduling in time to do nothing and actually sit with a cup of tea, practice a little bit of mindfulness, get out for a walk in nature, or just sit in silence and just do nothing and actually allow yourself to feel whatever is going to come up, because that's how we actually process. There's a saying where if we allow emotion to come up, if we don't do anything about it for 90 seconds, oftentimes it's just lessons. So just literally give ourselves the space, put 2 minutes on your phone and just sit there, sit in a chair. That's how we process emotion. It's emotions are energy in motion, and the other way we can do it is by movement. It's scheduling in 10 minutes a day to do jumping jacks, dance around the kitchen. You don't have to go to a gym, but it's move your body, get that energy flowing. And that is how we process emotion. It's how we process pain. And when we don't give ourselves that gift, that's when all these things like burning out and overwhelm just compound massively.
And disease as well.
And it's totally, absolutely. Yeah.
Body keeps the score, if you will.
Yeah.
What do you think people are really longing for right now?
That's interesting. I think people are longing for, and I've in conversations that I've actually just had with friends and even for myself, I think we're all longing for a little bit more of self-permission. And I think in this day and age where we've access to so much information, which is fantastic, I do think there's a need and a longing for self-permission to actually just be
Yeah,
and not be doing all the time, and just, it's rest, it's things that nurture the body and soul. It's actually just allowing ourselves to be and not be, there is this in the self-development world, there is this need to be constantly upskilling and reading and consuming all this content, which is amazing. But actually, and we can all work on ourselves and we can all do better always, but also we're all exactly perfect, exactly as we are. And there is nothing wrong with being and just allowing yourself to be for a day, for a week, for a month, whatever it is, without any sort of self-improvement behind it.
absolutely. And as you were talking, I'm thinking back to what you're saying about like movement with the nervous system and healing. And a lot of what that is for me is crafting. And there have been times in my past where I have felt guilty for wanting to take the evening to sit down and just make something for the sake of making it. And I remember one of the therapists that I worked with years ago, she was finally just like, it's an important thing for you to make the time to do this. Like, it doesn't really matter what comes out of it, but it's more, it gives you, for me specifically, it gives my nervous system a place to recalibrate
I
and
love that.
get into the moment.
I love that. And I as well, I love art, I love painting by numbers, all of that kind of stuff. And as well, it's a way for us to connect with our inner child. It's a way for
Mhm.
us to actually, it's thinking about things that we did as children that we really enjoyed that now we're like, oh no, I could never do that. It's actually to do those things because that
Yeah.
does calibrate our nervous system. It calms us down. It focuses, it allows us to feel like that inner child, that childlike play, that fun, that joy, which is
Yeah.
exactly we all need more of that.
Yeah. And sometimes, like, even outside of that, like, I have found myself taking a crayon and scribbling really hard on paper while screaming, quite frankly. And like, it kind of helps get some of the energy of anger. It gives it a place to go.
To express. Yeah, I love that.
Yes. Yeah. And I love crayons, and sometimes the feeling of a crayon breaking is a satisfying and yes.
Love that.
So we had talked a little bit before we started to record this. You have a free gift for listeners. Do you want to tell us about that?
I do, yeah. So I have a three-part mini video series. It's called Reset and Rewire. And so essentially it is a little taster into how people can help learn how to make their mindset work for them. And so it's a little deep dive into neuroscience, a couple of different practical things that people can implement, all very, very simple. Don't be scared by the word neuroscience, all
Yes.
super simple. Um, but yeah, it's great. And if anyone has any questions, they can also reach out to me as well on social media as well about it.
Perfect. And the link for that I will include in the show notes for people. How did it come up for you to create that video series?
I actually it's funny in conversation I did my training coaching with neuroscience, and just by talking to people I was mentioning the word neuroscience quite a lot, and nobody stopped me to say they didn't understand it except for one or two people. So then I kind of thought, okay, well, we all think people understand exactly what we're saying. So to take a bit of time and actually break it down for people has been really useful, and just make it more accessible. It is not a big scary thing. It is essentially the study of our nervous system, and we all have one, so we should all want to learn more about it.
Yeah, because it literally breaks down neuroscience to being studying of the nervous system, studying of the mind,
Exactly.
essentially.
Yeah,
Yes. I get that too, as I'm neurodivergent. And so introducing people to the term neurodivergent, it can be very overwhelming. And it actually just means having a brain that diverges from what is considered to be the social norm. So
exactly.
it's
Yeah,
a lot
yeah,
scarier sounding word than it actually is in reality.
totally, totally. Yeah, I get that so much.
And for anybody listening, when they want to find you, what social media, what's your flavor of social media?
So I'm on most things these days, but Instagram at Coast Based Coaching will be the main place that you will find me. Also LinkedIn as well, Danielle McMahon, and my website as well, which is coastbasedcoaching.ie. So yeah, I'm everywhere. You will find me.
Beautiful. And I will put all of those in the show notes as well. Well, Danielle, as we wrap up here, what is one last thing that's coming up for you that feels right to share with people right now?
That feels right to share. Um, it is a quote, I think, and it's a book that I'm reading. It's Mel Robbins, and it's two simple words. It's let them. Actually, four. Let them, let me. And if nobody's read that book, I urge you to read it. But it will present some very interesting mindset shifts that will change your life, quite frankly. So it's let them. It's the let them theory by Mel Robbins.
Beautiful. I've actually been hearing about that one a couple different places lately, so I might
She's
have to
great.
check that one out too. All right, well, great. For anybody listening who wants to connect with me or find out more of my coaching as well, you can find me at followthedopamine.life. Sorry, you can find me on followthedopamine.life. That is my website. Instagram at followthedopamine.life and on Substack at followthedopamine. And if this conversation sparks something in you and you want to explore what it means to be human with me, please reach out. I'd love to hear from you. And until next time, Danielle, thank you so much for being here and talking with me.
Thank you so much for having me, Kate. That was really enjoyable.
You are welcome. And to everybody listening, and Danielle, and to myself as well, thanks for being you. Bye.
Thanks so much. Bye.